who stretches the earth over the waters, Baruch Adonai, who strengthens our steps, Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who clothes the naked, Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary, Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who brings sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids. Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who made in the image of God. Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who has made me free. Elohim melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. You may be seated. On the top of page 204, in a moment, we will say the blessing for Torah study together. There's a commandment that you say this blessing together. Because there's a real debate. Rabbis say, do you say the blessing for Torah study right before you study Torah? Or do you say it just once a day? And the answer is you say it once a day. You say it only once a day. You say it only in the morning. Part of this is the idea that you should fill your days with study. But part of it, too, is an expansive view of what we mean by Torah. Torah is not just the 5 books of Moses. That's really sort of what we're going to talk about in our Torah study today. First, the Torah is not the 5 books of Moses. Torah is what we do when we encounter the world as Jews. And so we say this blessing together because each of us has the obligation to say it individually and yet to do it as a community. Together on the top of 204, we'll do the Hebrew there and then the English on the bottom of 204. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu b'ma'asot v'divrei Torah. O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths, in the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and descendants of all your people Israel, may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Amen Torah le'olam Israel. So, you say this blessing for Torah study. We would expect that immediately following this, we would study a piece of Torah, right? So the rabbis are a little tricky. Because if you turn the page on 206, you'll see that what they do is instead, they put in a piece of Talmud. Right? We expect Torah, like over here, the Torah. And instead, we get a piece of Talmud. It's a message to us. Don't make the Protestant mistake. Don't think it's about going back to the text. Don't think it's about going back to the original meaning. It's about the expansion. It's about Torah as an expansive concept. So traditionally, this is the text that you study immediately after saying that blessing. In my home congregation, we've adopted the tradition that we pick a different text each time. We do a little bit of a Torah study. So I'm asking you to do that. If you would open up your folders and grab the Tezria, I think it says Tezria 3 of 3, and I'll explain what that means. Not the one that says Parshat Tezria, sorry. The one that has... Okay, then once you've got it, I want you to just flip it over from the back to where it says the evolution of Torah. This is a piece of Talmud. Every piece of Talmud line on the bottom of here too. We're not really going to use the oral Torah. This is the basic idea of Judaism. That when the Torah is given, the written Torah to Moses at Mount Sinai, there's an oral tradition, an oral Torah that is given as well. This is passed teacher to student, rabbi to rabbi through the generations until the year 200 CE, after the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, after the failed Bar Kokhba rebellion, and there's fear that it's going to be lost. And so everything that is known about the oral Torah, all of these traditions and conflicting traditions, are written down in a document called the Mishnah. The Mishnah is sent to the north of Israel, and it is sent way out to Babylon. In each of these communities, they spend the next 600 years or so writing commentaries on the Mishnah. That's called the Gemara. If you publish a document that starts with the Mishnah and then has the Gemara, that's what we call the Talmud. So there is a Babylonian Talmud, meaning the Babylonian commentary on the Mishnah, and there is the Jerusalem Talmud, which wasn't actually written in Jerusalem, but you know, which is the Israel commentary on the Mishnah. Does that make sense? As sort of a real quick introduction? So this comes from the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud is the more important Talmud of the two. Always has been. The Babylonian community was a much stronger community. They were a much more stable community. They had many of the greatest scholars of the day. That's why. The Jerusalem Talmud also focuses more on agricultural issues that only apply in Israel. Okay, Jeremy, please.
If a man made an oven out of separate coils of clay, placing one upon the other, and put sand between each of the coils, such an oven, Rabbi Eliezer declared, is not susceptible to defilement, while the sages declared it susceptible.
Okay, so this specific topic isn't going to be particularly important to us, but basically they come up with some technological innovation that makes this oven kosher. It's a little different of a concept, but the topic doesn't really matter for us. Does everyone understand? So the important piece is Rabbi Eliezer says, yeah, it's great, it's fine, it's kosher. All the rest of the rabbis say, nope.
Why wouldn't they do
it? Don't worry about it. Okay, so the other piece, I told you I'd interrupt that. The other piece to know is that the way that these decisions are made is by a vote of the elites, meaning a vote of the rabbis. The rabbis vote, and so is Jewish law. In some sense, the idea is so is the will of God. Sort of like how they elect a pope. Right? There you go. There you go. In the smoke at the end. Yeah. So that's the important piece to know. So Rabbi Eliezer has lost.
It is taught. On that day, Rabbi Eliezer brought forward every imaginable argument, but the sages did not accept any of them.
Right, so it doesn't matter how logical he is. He is logical. If you pay attention to how it works, it sort of makes sense. It should be okay.
Finally, he said to them, if the halakha, religious law, is in accordance with me, let this carob tree prove it. Sure enough, the carob tree immediately uprooted itself and moved 100 cubits, and some say 400 cubits from its place.
Okay, right, so this great miracle happens. He calls on the carob tree, and they start uprooting themselves and flying all around. Right, and I love, this is so Talmudic here, right? Because the Talmud is written as rabbis say, okay, here's what happened, someone's writing it all down. And right, someone in that room is saying, okay, and the carob tree's uprooted 100 cubits, and the other one's saying, no, it's 400. They can't even agree on how many cubits the tree split. Okay.
No fruit can be brought from a carob tree, they retorted.
Right, the rabbis say, basically, what do carob trees know about kashrut?
And again, he said to them, if the halakha agrees with me, let the channel of water prove it. Sure enough, the channel of water flowed backward. No proof can be brought from a channel of water, they rejoined.
Right, same idea. We don't care. You know, okay, so you did a nice miracle, but water, what does that have to do with whether this is kosher or not?
Again, he urged, if the halakha agrees with me, let the walls of the house of study prove it. Sure enough, the walls tilted as if to fall. But Rabbi Joshua rebuked the wall, saying, When disciples of the wise are engaged in a halakhic dispute, what right have you to interfere? Hence, in deference to Rabbi Joshua, they did not fall, and in deference to Rabbi Eliezer, they did not resume their upright position. They are still standing aslant.
Right, you get the sense this was the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Jerusalem. No.
Again, Rabbi Eliezer said to the sages, "If the halacha agrees with me, let it be proved from evidence."
So, right, he's okay, fine. If you're not going to believe the carob trees or the water, or right, if you're not going to believe these miracles, the house tumbling in on itself, then let's call upon God, God's self, and we'll get God's answer to this, right? That will solve it once and for all.
Sure enough, the divine voice cried out, "Why do you dispute with Rabbi, with whom the halacha always agrees?"
Okay, so right, actually, I have to point out that the Hebrew is a bat kol, a female voice.
Oh. We pay no attention to a divine voice. Because long ago at Mount Sinai, you wrote the Torah at Mount Sinai. After the majority, must one incline.
Right? So he calls upon all these miracles and finally calls upon God, God's self. God gives an answer. And what do they say? They say, God, you have no standing in this court. Yeah, you have no standing in this court. You have no cause for objection. Right? Basically, they're saying, okay, the carob trees know nothing about kashrut, and God, what do you know about kashrut?
Rabbi Nathan met the prophet Elijah.
This is much, much later in the video.
What did the Holy One do at that moment? Elijah. He laughed with joy, saying, "My children have defeated me. My children have defeated me."
Okay, thank you for reading.
You can tell I was a children's language.
Yes. Okay. It's really a radical piece. And the more you dig, what's the idea? Any thoughts? It's sort of hard to have a group discussion on this big of a group. But
God has a sense of humor.
God has a sense of humor. Okay, good. Yeah.
Divine revelation. So,
Divine revelations are, yeah, that's one of the clear messages here, yeah.
What?
Divine revelation is over. Even more so, yeah.
God gave the Torah to the people, and so it's now up to the people to deal with the Torah, not God.
There you go. There you go, right? The Torah begins a process. It begins a process that is Judaism. But it is the process that has value. And it is the process that is the point, not the original text. Right? The point is not to go back to the Bible for truth. It is to look to the tradition for the discussion that has arisen from this.
Can I assume this is not an Orthodox view?
This is straight in the Talmud. I learned, in fact, I was first taught this text, I've been taught this text twice. Once by Rabbi Daniel Hartman, an Orthodox rabbi, and once by Yakir Englander, a rabbi who grew up in Bnei Brak, the ultra-Orthodox neighborhood outside of Tel Aviv. Yeah, that it speaks to the nature of truth. The truth is progressive in the sense that it's constantly being figured out more and more at some level.
The Orthodox don't change. They haven't progressed. It's, 1700s.
So yeah, so in fact, I don't want to get us too lost in here, but at some level, I think the single greatest, most radical innovation in Judaism in the last few hundred years are not the changes of the radical conservatism of Orthodoxy. That's something that never existed previous. So this is Judaism, and this is the image that I use tonight, and that I really think works. The Torah The Torah is to Judaism as that grain of sand is to a pearl. Right? The grain of sand goes into an oyster. I don't know if people know this. Pearls were a Jewish symbol for a long time because of this. That a grain of sand goes into the oyster, but it's not the grain of sand that we care about, right? You wouldn't take a pearl and try to cut it in half so that you can get back to the grain of sand. It's the layers that are built on top of layers, built on top of layers, that create the value, not the original piece itself. Okay, any other thoughts on this text? It's a great text, isn't it? Okay, you can put these, yeah, Helen.
It just goes back to in my mind, it goes back to the discussion I was having last night, or some of the things that you said about absolute, the fluidity, dynamic nature, as opposed to something stuck crystallized.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nice. Okay, page 208. And it is Kaddish that leaves Birkat HaShachar, these morning blessings, and enters into Psukei D'Zimra, our meditation prayer. Page 208. Yikda v'yikda shemei rabba, v'elmad yibrachim te'gam nichmachut ve'chad Yisrael, Bagala, U'mizmakari, Ve'yimeru, Yishmei rabba Torah, Ve'yavam Ve'yamaya, Yeparach V'yishtavach, V'yipar V'yiromam V'yinaseh, V'yitatar V'yitaleh V'yitarah, Shemei Kedusha, Amen Leila Minko Birchata V'shirata, Tushketa V'nechemata, Damira Me'yoma V'yimeru. For our teachers and their students, we ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say, Amen. For those who study Torah here and everywhere, may they be blessed with all they need. Let us say, Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say, Amen. We enter into Psukei D'Zimra, page 2. Well, the rabbis, we're talking about the rabbis who wrote that before they would begin their prayers every day, they would meditate for an hour. Their services were a lot shorter than our services, which is how they could add another hour on, right? We add another hour on, you're going all day. Psukei D'Zimra is how we do that. Psukei D'Zimra in that sense is similar to Kabbalat Shabbat from last night. It is about moving us spiritually to a place of prayer. We begin with Baruch Shamar on page 212, a meditation reality. Page 212. If you know this chant, we're going to do it responsibly. It's a pretty easy chant to catch in on, too. Baruch Shema V'Yaolam Baruch Hu Baruch Hosei Bereshit Baruch Omer Ve'osei Baruch Gozer Ukayem Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz Baruch Merachem Al Habriot Baruch Meshalem Zachar Tov Nireyam Baruch Hanan V'Kayam V'Netzach B'Dir Baruch Zemo Mishpachot V'Zmirot Negatlecha Shabbat Korach V'Nazkir Shimchavan V'Zacham Inu Eloheinu Yazidei Olamim Melech Meshubach U'Porei Ad Shmo HaGadol Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Mechulah V'Tishmachot. יזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ומלך שמחה, ומלך שמחה היום. להגיד בבוקר הסליחה, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי אסון ועלינה, ועלי היום בחינות. יום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמחה, וזמר לשמחה, כי שמחת יבוא לך, במעשה ישמעו ידעו צילו יבין נצרות, צדיק התמה, יפרח the indented lines at the bottom, כארץ בלבנון, יזכה שתולי, בבית אדוני. Top of page 215, Ashrei. There are three different ways, you'll see this is sort of a three-part song, but each part repeats itself, so you should be able to catch on pretty quickly. It goes like this. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Oria Halelucha Sela. Try that, Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Oria Halelucha Sela. Ashrei Ha'am Shekach Lo, Ashrei Ha'am Shadonai Elohim. Try that, Ashrei Ha'am Shekach Lo. Ashrei Ha'am Shadonai Elohim. Yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da. Try that. Yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy da. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Oria Halelucha Sela. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Oria Halelucha Sela. Ashrei Ashreyam Shekabalo, Ashreyam Shaddai Elohim, Ashreyam Shekabalo, Ashreyam Shaddai Elohim. Yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die. Yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die, yum diddy dum diddy dum diddy die. Ashrei Yoshperetecha, Oya Hallelujah Selah. Take a moment for private meditation. Sukkot Zimra is supposed to be meditation before we pray. You can either read the words, the rest of Ashrei, or take a moment just to close your eyes and center yourself. Hilat Adonai Lavechi, Yorech Kol Besar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed, Anachnu Nevarechya, Ta'avei Olam, Hallelujah. Page 208. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Page 220, and we'll read this responsibly. Even if our mouths is as wide as the skies and space. Our hands were spread out like heaven's seals. We can never thank you adequately, Adonai. Rains and favors to our ancestors. hand to us. Page 223, we leave gratitude and praise to affect our work. Please rise to 23. Ishtava Simcha Le'at B'Kei Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yipar, Yibramach, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemir, Gusha, Rumen, Leila, Mikover, Chata, Bashirata, Tushkata, Mata, Nabira, Bilma, Vilaru, Mine is about the distance between who we have been and who we could be, distance between our soul and God's image of us and the life we have lived. Before we come to that, we're told to take two things with us, two ideas with us. We talked about yesterday, this grand smallness of Yotzer, or and supreme faith in our begin Yotzer Or with our smallness, with our meditation, with our sense of awe that we get when we look up to the stars and realize just how small we are. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, shalom, uletako, yoteron, Moshe. Say shalom, shalom, uletako. The top of 229 together. In the beginning, and then the light of sons of the righteous. First for order, then for hope. Author, language, life. Help us to use words you understand. To cast light into dark corners. Cry justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai. Move from that sense of smallness to that sense of infinite value that we get from Ahavah, that we get from sacred relationship, that we get, as Martin Buber said, from the I and the thou. The I and the thou relationship, the relationship that we have when we look and see another human being and not an object there for us. We'll read on the top of 230 in English, and then we will sing the rest of it. You have loved us, Adonai, our God. Be gracious to us, have mercy on us, by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all this you So, Hatikva comes first. Actually, Czech drinking song comes first. If you look at the words to this, gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders, you chose us. Right? There's a question here, particularly when you go back to the earliest Zionists living 150 years ago, as they're struggling within their synagogues. The idea of Zionism is really looked down upon. Right? It's really poo-pooed. And the reason that it is poo-pooed is because from a religious sense, there is this strong tradition that says we should not be active agents in history. We should not be working to make this happen. We should not be working to change the world. that we exist and we wait for God to do these things for us, and that it's chutzpah to do it. And it was the young people at the time who said no, who really, in a certain way, made the same move that Reform Judaism makes, right? This idea of tikkun olam. This idea that no, our purpose in creation is to do this. Our purpose in creation is to make the world better, is to repair the world, is to work in history. And so it was really their revolt that in the synagogues they began to sing this section of the prayer to the words of Hatikvah. Their message being, no, when we talk about what God will do for us, God created us to do that. That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
We come to the Shema. I'm going to give an introduction to the Shema, and I'm going to have each of us do it on our own. We can also do it together on our own, too, if we'd like, you know. Shema itself we translate poorly, right? Classically, the translation is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is one. We have this meditation on the divine. We have the Baruch Shem Kavod, which comes after, which gives ourselves over to the grandeur. This is, again, another small moment. This is a moment of recognizing that we are one small piece in this puzzle, that we are not the purpose of creation, that instead we serve a purpose within creation. We come to V'ahavta. V'ahavta, which speaks really of living what David Hartman called a God-minded life at every moment of every day. What he meant by this is a life that was always engaging with questions of values, which was always engaging with questions of being the best that we can be. What V'ahavta is about. And we have on page 236, Vayomer, which speaks of tzitzit. In the traditional, if you're wearing tzitzit, you give them a little kiss every time you say the word tzitzit. This is a proof text, really, for our conversation last night. If we have a God that is this big, what do we need religion for? What do we need Judaism for? Vayomer answers that question. Vayomer literally is talking about not the sort of tzitzit that we wear in a tallis, but what's called a tzitzit katan, traditionally worn underneath the clothing. And it speaks of the idea being that, you know, you're going to take off your clothes, maybe to do something you shouldn't be doing, and you notice your tzitzit, and it serves as a reminder to you. A reminder that you should be living the best of who you are, and not the most base of who you are. But this is only one example of a larger idea. This, when it's done right, is the purpose of religion, it is the purpose of ritual, it is the purpose of Judaism. To force us to engage with these questions of value, these questions of, are we being the best version of ourselves that we can be? This is the journey of the Shema, a journey which we're really going to do sort of quietly or mumbly or however you want to do it, but each of us on our own. The Talmud says that the Shema, more than anything else, should be done in whatever language you feel most comfortable, because it's all about the kavanah. It's all about the intentionality that you bring to it. So it can be the Hebrew on the page, it can be the English on the page, it can simply be taking a moment to close your eyes and meditate on the ideas we just talked about. Page 232 is where it begins, and it goes through page 236.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
CD, and we'll close, and we continue to look at the as you can, we'll talk to like the rate of Asher Tzidkirchem be'eretz Mitzrayim, Yolachem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem, Page 239. The eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else. Let them eat the swords and the plowshares, and your spears and the pruning hooks.
Nation not lift up sword against nation,
You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God?
We know that they tremble and commence to war and fall the Christ of the deep.
Praise to God Most High.
Blessed is God, who preserves us.
From the Surah Yisrael, our introduction into the Amidah. If the Shema is all about the difference between who we have been and who we could be, the Amidah is all about the difference between what our world is and what our world could be if we made it so. Surah Yisrael commands God. Rock of Israel, Kuma. It's the command form, rise. Rise in support of Israel. It's about as chutzpah as you can get. It's literally the command form that we are addressing to God. And yet I think this goes back to that same idea of Hatikva, to the melody. That it's become traditional that we ourselves rise on the word Kuma. We're commanding God to do this. And yet understanding that the way that God acts is through the creation of humanity. That the way that we fulfill God's will is by repairing the world ourselves, not by waiting passively. So we stand ourselves on the word of Kuma, understanding that in commanding God, what we are really doing is commanding ourselves. In a moment, we will go ahead and do that, and we'll enter into the Amidah, which begins on the next page. We'll pray the Amidah, we'll do the first 3 blessings together, and then we'll have everyone continue on their own, in your own way, the words of the page or the words of your heart. The Amidah goes through page 260, and you can be seated whenever you are done. So we'll continue now on page 240. O Israel, Uma Bezrat Yisrael, U'Dei Umecha Israel, Go Aleim Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Yisrael. Please feel no rush. Take as much time as you need to get me done.
Sing the
We begin Seder Kriyat Torah as we take out the Torah, and we will do this. We're going to do this how we do it at my home congregation. We sort of evolve the tradition, where we're going to have 3 aliyot. We're on the triennial cycle. Does anyone know what that is? Some people. So if you go to a traditional school, you read the entirety of the Torah over the course of a year, right? If you come every Saturday morning, you'll read the entirety of the Torah. If you go to many Reform congregations, you'll read bits and pieces, right? Whatever the rabbi's going to give a sermon about, typically you'll read those 15 or 20 verses or whatever it is. So there's an old Babylonian tradition, in the time of the Babylonian Talmud, that many conservative congregations and more Reform congregations are taking up, which is called the triennial calendar, where you read the entirety of the Torah over the course of 3 years. So in the first year, you read the first third of each portion. And the second year, you read the second third. So we're in, at least for the calendar that we're using in my congregation, we're in the 3rd year.
How do you do Simchat?
The 3rd year, I guess, is the big one, Simchat Torah, right? Yeah.
Just delete it for a couple of years.
Yeah, we still do it, but like, yeah. No, the truth of it is, this year, we've got a whole group of people who've been our Saturday morning regulars who will have finished reading the entirety of the Torah. And so it's going to be it's going to have a special significance to. Okay, so anyways, we are in the triennial cycle. We're going to do this as a Torah study. So you're going to want to get out both of the sheets that say Tezria on them. But you probably have a minute to do that. We're going to take the Torah out first. And can I get the congregation, which say? We want the little kids to go out? Chance saying?
Yeah.
Teens, look at it. If you'd like to go, there's something you can do. Let's get congregational presidents up here for the honors. Maybe that makes sense. And we're going to be on page 362. Page 362, please rise. In como mi madonna, que papacera, ma ultima fortuna, mi bruciata casa fortuna. Adonai, 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 Elam Pael, Adonai, Ozeamoite, Adonai, Baruch, et Jehovah Shalom, Abarakami, Tiva Betzorah, et Zion, Divei Chomot Yerushalayim, Divei Chomot Yerushalayim, Gilecha levakatachu, Melech leolam v'yisrael, Page 364. Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, U'Dvar Adonai B'Yerushalayim. 66. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'Kedushato.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Everyone may be seated. So we are in Tezria, right? I think it was Dan who said yesterday, everyone's favorite bar mitzvah portion. So go ahead and get out your sheets. You're going to want both of the Tezria sheets. So what I'm going to ask is we're going to call up the remaining presidents come up for your aliyah, if you wouldn't mind reading it in English out loud, while I will, under you, read it in Hebrew. This again actually goes to the Babylonian tradition. I don't know if people are familiar with this. Not in English, but you know. There's a whole tradition. If people heard the Targumim, the Targums, the Targums today are a collection of written documents that are translations into Arabic of Torah. But they're interpreted translations, and as such, we use them to give us a window into these texts. But there was a tradition that when the Torah was read in Babylon, one person would read it in Hebrew, and another person would offer a live interpreted translation. So you don't have to be too interpretive if you don't want to. But at the very least, we'll have you do that, and please be louder than me with the Hebrew. You'll cover up all my mistakes. That's good too. Okay, and a prayer book for the prayer. All right, can we call you up for our first aliyah? Top. Abraham Sarah Aliyah Rishona Bimkom Kohen. Blessing is. Let me show you where we are reading here. Beautiful. This comes from Temple Jacob. It is a gorgeous Torah, actually. It's old, and you can see the handwriting. You can borrow my pen.
Thank you.
Go ahead and grab a corner of the Torah and say blessing.
Baruch hu et Adonai haBara.
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan noten ha'Torah.
So for the first aliyah, you can read for us 29 through 46. So you'll be able to tell when you're supposed to stop. Yeah.
And when a man or woman hath a plague upon the head or upon the beard, then the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the appearance thereof be deeper than the skin, and there be in it yellow than hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scald. It is a leprosy of the head or of the beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the scald, and behold, the appearance thereof be not deeper than the skin, and there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague of the scald 7 days. And if the 7th day the priest shall look upon the plague, and behold, be not spread, the skull be not deeper than, but the skull shall be not shaved, and the priest shall shut him up that hath the skull 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look upon the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, and the appearance thereof be not deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread abroad in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for the yellow hair, he is unclean. But if the skull stay in its appearance, and the black hair be grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. And if a man or woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be all white, it is a tetter, it hath broken out in the skin, he is clean. And if a man's hair be fallen on his head, he is bald, and he is clean. And if the hair be fallen off from the front part of his head, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. But if there be in the bald head or the bald forehead a reddish white plague, it is leprosy breaking out in his bald head or his bald forehead. And the priest shall look upon it, and behold, the rising of the plague is white in his bald head, and his bald forehead is the appearance of leprosy, the skin of the flesh. He is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall surely pronounce him unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and the hair of his head shall go loose. And he shall cover his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean. Days wherein the plague is in him, he shall be unclean. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his dwelling be.
Sorry. Yep.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan l'tofim. Baruch atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Okay, we can all sit down for a couple of minutes. We do our Torah study right now. Okay, I think I'm going through all of these extra folders, filling things out of them. I'm already rated. Okay, what did we notice? What stood out? Dermatology, yes, exactly. Exactly. What else stood out? Okay, the priest handles everything, right? The priest at some level is the public health administrator. Yeah. There's no mention of God here, correct? I mean, you get sort of, and that's typical of Leviticus. You get God in the introductions and conclusions, right? You get Vaydaber Adonai Moshe Lemor, and God spoke to Moses saying, 10 pages of rules, and God said that.
There were no blondes.
What'd you say?
There were no blondes.
There were no blondes. Okay. Or else a lot of time. Okay. What can we take away from this?
Seeing bones okay.
All is beautiful.
Ritual impurity and actual impurity. Here it is. So.
Okay, yeah. So frequently, ritual impurity doesn't seem to have much connection to what we consider to be sort of purity or health, right? But here, absolutely, there's connection. Okay. So yeah, that's the public health element. Judaism cares about public health. I've given that sermon. Yeah. Okay. What else? What is the spiritual value here? Right, and that's sort of the answer, right? So go ahead and bring out your commentary sheets. First, a note on these commentary sheets. I make one of these every week for my congregation, and I post them online. If any of you would like to access them online, I will happily send a link to where they're available to, and you should feel free to make copies of them and use them as source study sheets in your congregation if you'd like to. Okay, so why is this in the Torah? Before we look at the commentary, right? Let's ask that question. Why is this in the Torah?
They were laws to protect the people of Israel.
Okay, there were laws to protect the people of Israel. Public health laws? Yeah. But there's all sorts of other public health issues that are bigger public health issues. Cleanliness of water. Right? We don't have things about that in the Torah.
They haven't figured it out yet.
And they haven't figured it out yet? Okay.
Notice this really make much sense.
No, if they think we got our doctors back here, yes.
Somebody decided it should be.
Okay, someone decided it should be in the Torah, right? Why is this in the Torah is another way of saying, like, what value does this have for us? So remember our theme for our study this morning. We're going to look at specifically. The theme of the study is really to understand that Judaism is not about the text. Judaism is about the process that the text produces. So we're going to look at some commentaries here. This first section is all from Nechama Leibowitz. Actually, Nechama Leibowitz is how it's pronounced. Does anyone know who she is? Any familiarity with her? Yes, no? Can you tell us a little bit about her?
A woman who is known for her Torah commentary.
Okay. Okay. So she's an Israeli woman. Didn't think of herself as being a feminist, really. She just sort of was. Comes from the Orthodox world, the early state of Israel. And what she did, in fact, she didn't think of herself as being a commentator. What she thought of herself is that she would go and she would look up all of the different commentaries on an interesting section from the Torah, and she put them together on a study sheet. And she had a list, she had a set of students, literally students first, like in school, who she would study with every week on this. And it became so popular that these students would graduate and they would leave, and she would start mailing these sheets out to people. And after she died, people started collecting these sheets and turned it into a book that is functionally a commentary of the Torah by Nehemiah. During her life, she wasn't terribly well known as compared to her brother, Yeshayahu Leibowitz. Has anyone heard of Yeshayahu Leibowitz, though?
No.
Yeshayahu Leibowitz is an important Israeli philosopher, public philosopher, in conversation with Soloveitchik and David Hartman, really. But we won't go there right now. Influential commentators, really, there. She changed how everyone in every movement studies Torah. We started studying Torah by looking at them through the lenses of the classical commentators. She put these together. So anyways, if you don't have her collection in your synagogue library, highly encourage you to get it. It's not in print, but you can find it used. It's a 5 or 6 volume set. It's great if you're going to write a sermon, and it's really wonderful if you're working with B'nai Mitzvah kids, because you'll have 6 or 7 different sheets for each parsha that she takes you through one of the problems and what everyone has to say about it. Really wonderful collection. So let's go ahead and look at it here. And anything that's not indented is her. Anything that's indented is a commentator that she brings. Is there someone who would read that first paragraph for us?
I will. The subjects in this double weekly reading,
So normally this is a double reading. It's not for us this week.
leprosy of the body, of garments, and finally of houses are puzzling and mystifying. Are they simply the natural symptoms of disease, mold, and rot? In that event, the Torah offers us orders of a health ministry. Or perhaps we have here something supernatural, a special intervention of providence designed to warn the faithful. Down the ages, the opinions of Jewish commentators, scholars, and thinkers have varied from one extreme to the other in propounding solutions. Strangely enough, it is just those commentators who oppose explaining the dietary laws from a hygienic point of view, who now approach the subject of leprosy from a rational medical standpoint. Thus, Abravanel, who took issue with Rambam, God forbid that our Torah should be as one of the medical treatises,
Rules are all about health.
who offers this type of explanation.
Okay, so let's hear what Abravanel has to say.
The Torah warned the leper against the effects of his disease on many materials. Anything that he wore next to his skin was liable to develop mold and rot. The Torah warned the leper after he had recovered and had been purified not to use those same garments which might give him the disease again.
Okay, so according to Abravanel and his tradition, why is this in the Torah? Infection, public health, right? He's going. Okay.
Why then did the Torah choose to single out these particular diseases of body, clothing, and houses, and teach us how to combat them? I.e., not all sorts of other medical conditions as well.
This is really the conversation we had.
More likely and acceptable in this context, therefore, are the explanations of those commentators who see a supernatural element in these ordinances, regarding them as evidence of a divine providence at work. In conclusion, let us quote Maimonides' summing up of the significance of the subject of leprosy in the Torah, restating ancient rabbinic thought. Leprosy is a hybrid or homonymous term connoting dissimilar subjects, but the whiteness of the human skin and the falling out of the hair and are referred to as leprosy, as well as a change in the color of garments or houses. That is not a natural phenomenon, but constituted a sign and one evil. For as to him who indulges in evil talk, the walls of hence the house becomes clean. If he persists in wickedness, then the skins that he lies on become affected and changed. But if he persists in his wrongdoing, then his very clothes that cover him must be burnt and he must dress anew.
Okay. So Bob's not doing anything creative here. He's taking ancient rabbinic commentary and summarizing it. But what's the basic idea?
You can tell the book by its cover.
You can tell a book.
Yes, right.
Yes, okay. Okay.
I mean, no, medical illnesses were set. And that, I mean, this is obvious, it's right on the surface. You see that there's something wrong. It's not somebody fetching. You see it.
Okay. And so for what reason does it happen?
Just an outward sign of that you're doing something wrong in your life.
Okay, so in essence, it's classic sort of Deuteronomical theology. Do things wrong, bad things happen to you. Do things right, things happen to you. Okay. But the connection they make here, what causes the rot? What causes the leprosy?
Something inside.
Something inside. And it's something evil inside comes out. Evil talk, right? Which literally, the Hebrew is the Lashon Hara. Dan, did you have something? I heard it.
I was just saying, I mean, it's the next section, because of what, I got sign of inner rot, but why specifically was it rot?
Why are those two linked?
Why are those two linked? The answer is they're linked to the ancient rabbinic commentaries.
But even there, I mean, even just on a pure ancient rabbinic text basis, why pick that particular sin?
So, what I'm about to say, I think I'm saying what it says, but it's very possible that I'm just totally making this up. So I say it, but I do it too. I have a memory that, yeah, it's only being recorded forever. I have a memory that it's, there's some sort of linguistic connection. The rabbis like to play these games.
Yeah, you've got, it's here, but I often wonder which is cause and which is effect of those linguistic connections.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so the real point that I want us to take away from here is, first of all, in some ways, it's what Dan is saying. It's a pretty radical jump, right? All of a sudden, we're not talking about public health, we're talking about malicious gossip. Right? A really radical jump to our subject, which rabbis for generations have been thankful for, that they have something to talk about in this portion, right? So we're going to talk about what malicious gossip is. We're going to talk about what we mean by this concept. We're going to look at the expansion of this idea and how it's all derived from this Torah portion. But what I want us to also remember to take away from this discussion is the process that they're doing this by. There is this sense of freedom to totally and radically reinterpret and renew the text, right? This is, God, you have no place here. Right? You have no standing in this court. We're going to tell you what this means.
Before you go on, there's a whole philosophy of illness being generated from inner issues.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, what we're seeing right here. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at why the Shofar. Why is this here? So again, this is going to answer your question a little bit. Candace, you have the energy to keep going, or you want to pass it off?
I can go on if you can understand what I'm saying. We have already noted that the regulations governing leprosy cannot be adequately explained as sanitary measures. The Torah does not adopt a medical approach, but regards the disease as a symptom of spiritual imbalance. Our sages connected leprosy with the sin of evil talk.
Okay, so now we're getting this. This is found in two different places. The Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Arachim, page 15, side 8, in Tanhuma, which is a collection of commentaries, a collection of midrashim on Leviticus.
Rabbi Yohanan said in the name of Rabbi Yosef ben Zimra, the retelling of evil talk is tantamount to denying God, as it is stated in Psalms 12:5. With our tongue we will prevail, our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us?
Okay, let's pause for a moment there. It's pretty strong language, right, when you think about it. That evil talk, malicious gossip, is tantamount to denying God. The one who engages in malicious gossip, and we're going to talk about what we mean by that term in a couple moments. But in terms of the rabbis trying to create a priority of how important this is, it's hard to raise it higher than that level.
Rabbi Yosef said further, whoever retells evil talk is visited by plagues. Said Reish Lakish.
Do people know Reish Lakish? Is that a name that means anything? One of the more important commentators in the Talmud, and he tends to be very open to second chances. That's his shtick, which really makes sense because Reish Lakish, he's a real figure, was a slave in the Roman Colosseums. He was a gladiator who won his freedom in the Colosseum and became one of the most important figures in the Talmud. Really a great story in some sense, right? But you can see why he's open to second chances.
Why haven't they made a movie yet?
They did actually. It was the Russell Crowe movie. They took out the rabbi part. Okay.
What is the implication of the phrase, this shall be the law of the leper? That's Torah. It means, this shall be the law of he who spreads evil talk. Won't say Shemra.
There you go, Dan.
Yeah.
That's your line, right? Motzi, right, to bring out, like Yitziat Matzah, or Yitziat Mitzrayim, the coming out from Egypt. Motzi Lechem min haaretz, good, yeah, that's an even better use right there, right? It brings bread from the earth. Shemra, name.
Rashi, who takes pains to avoid allegorical and homiletic explanations, does not hesitate to stress the symbolic talk. Rashi, two living birds. Since these
So two living birds. That's what you have to sacrifice if you have this grossness on you.
Since these plagues are penalties for evil talk, consists of idle chatter, birds which continually chatter and chirp.
You get the sense that Rashi was so mad at the birds who woke him up every morning. Okay, Samson Raphael Hirsch is going to continue this explanation. People know who that is? Yes, no? Does anyone know well enough to give us a little bit on him? So we now call him modern. This time, you know what he was called? A reformer. 19th century Germany. The great debate that began the reforming was really about secular education. Could you study in a secular university? So Samson Raphael Hirsch said yes, and he went and did it. He got a PhD, I think, in Berlin. Most of them did it. And as such was a reformer. He came up with the idea of Torah in derech eretz, Torah with the way of the world, modern orthodoxy as opposed to ultra-orthodoxy. During his time, he was a reformer. Today, he's modern orthodox.
The antisocial character of the wild, uncontrolled bird stands in direct contrast to the social character of the outcast who wishes once again to be reaccepted into human society. His reacceptance, however, is dependent on carrying out the command to kill one of the birds, symbolizing that man must completely subject his previously uncontrolled animal instinct to the overall moral.
Okay. No, sorry, no. I saw society, that's the last one.
The cedar wood and hyssop, the largest and smallest representatives of the vegetable world, as well as the scarlet worm, symbolize the uninhabited vastness of nature to which he had been exiled, the field on the fringes of the town, as a result of his antisocial behavior. The living bird symbolizes his animal instincts, whose natural place is in the open field and not in society. The 7 sprinklings admonish the one who had
7 sprinklings of blood is part of the ritual of the sacrifice.
admonish the one who had been condemned to live in the field alone among the plants and animals, that he should make 7-fold efforts to purify his conduct and fit himself once again to be a member of human society.
Okay, it's got a nice little sermon there, right? Homily. Okay, thoughts on this idea of Lashon Hara? We're going to talk about what specifically Lashon Hara is in a moment, but any thoughts, any comments?
Well, I'm wondering, when you brought up, why is it so penultimate as a sin? Is that thing I don't want to do, and I don't want to do. That's weird.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
So we're going to get that in a second, particularly for something that is... Yeah. Yeah, in fact, the Chofetz Chaim, the most important sort of ultra-Orthodox rabbi of about the same time as Rabbi Hirsch, actually, said that it's such a problem to speak evil of people that you shouldn't even say something good about someone to someone else, because it gives them an opportunity to say something bad.
It's so damaging to the community.
It's so damaging to the community, yeah. Yep.
And however, if in fact, as a direct connection, skin disease was always seen in people who committed Lashon Hara, the majority of...
But it works in the opposite direction. Everyone out in the field probably committed Lashon Hara.
Yes, certainly.
Another example to everybody else.
Okay, let's go on for a second on the app, which we were supposed to do earlier than this tonight. This is the notes. Who can we call up? Is there another temple president? Tamamon.
Hi, Ito Bat Benjamin, the Viyata.
Chaim Ito Bat Benjamin.
Viyata.
Veyita Lialia Mukom Levi. That's where our lady.
Huh?
Yeah, Levi's right.
No.
Okay. So we said Mukom Levi instead of close. I'll show you in a second, don't worry. So there's your spot right there.
Asher Bakaranu Miko Kami, Tamana Vekurato, Rosataruna, Mutena
We're going to read through 56. So you'll read it. Actually, you'll read it at the. Yeah.
Plague of leprosy is in a girl. Or any plague be greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the skin, or in the wart, or in the book, or in anything of skin, it is the plague of leprosy, and shall be shown unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut up that which hath been plagued 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, or in the wrap, or in the wool, or in the skin, whatever sort of skin is used for, the plague is a malignant leprosy, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, or the wrap, or the wool, whether it be of wool or of linen, or anything of skin, where the plague is, for it is a malignant leprosy. It shall be burnt in the fire. And the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, or the wart, or in the woof, or in anything of skin,
And the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look after that the plague is washed. And behold, if the plague has not changed its color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire, it is a fret, whether the bareness be within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be dim after the washing thereof, then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the wool. And if it appears still in the garment, or in the warp, or in the wool, or in anything of skin that is breaking out, thou shalt burn it wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, or the wood, or the wool, or whatever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in the garment of wool or linen, or in the warp, or in the wool, or in anything of skin, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu.
Amen. And with the Torah out, we take a moment for Mishabbat L'Cholim, Mishabbat for healing. I would ask that we fill ourselves with prayer, with intentionality, fill our hearts with healing for those who are in need. One who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. Names of people we're thinking of. Sucker. She's sick.
Amy Bennett and Sharon Gordon.
And blessed home will be filled with compassion, so that help will be restored and the strength will be revived. May God swiftly send them to feed them all body and spirit. Let us say, Amen. שלח להם מהרה רפואה ובשלהם ונשמע רפואתם ושבועות הגוף. אשתר גאולה בזמן קריב ונאמר Amen. Thank you. Okay. Does anything stand out to us about this reading? Anything new? Or we're still solidly in the leprosy skin sacrifice boat?
We're further away from really any sense of the idea that this is something, an internal problem coming out. We're not even in the person.
Now we're in fabric.
Yes, yeah. Worried about not spreading it to other people? Yeah, okay, good. Good. Yeah, I mean, really, at that level, shop reading is public health reading.
Yes.
Yeah,
I probably have my movies wrong, I think it's then her, and that would be Charlton Heston. But anyway, I think there's a scene where there's a leper colony, so they used to isolate or segregate the lepers. It's my language statement, and I think that ties into what you're talking about they're being almost like punished or set apart because of their malicious, gossiping nature.
Nice.
Also, my other 2 sentences, there's our current law, which is sort of a codification of ethical, legal as opposed to ethical and moral. We talk about libel and slander. It has to rise to a certain level of malice to have damage, to be eligible for damages in certain contexts. I'm wondering if there's a connect.
so that is the beautiful introduction to our next section. Would you be up for reading our next section?
I don't know if I have it because I was looking for, unless is it those short pieces or is it the explanation? If I don't have I don't have the commentary.
This is an easy fix.
Thank you. Oh, too cool. Okay, thank you.
We're right there.
Okay.
Okay, so this next section you'll notice we've left the common language, and now you're getting my collection of sources that I found and liked.
What is Lashon Hara? Midrash telling. Evil talk is like an arrow. A person who sheaths the sword can regret his intention and returns to its sheath. But the arrow cannot be retrieved. Yalkut Shimoni.
Okay, hold on, let's pause it for each one. Okay, what's the idea here?
1 second.
Yeah. So this is beginning to explore the idea of why is Lashon Hara viewed as such an important problem. Right? That unlike drawing out a sword, the moment you begin to speak, it's over. Okay, Yalkut Shimoni.
To what may the tongue be compared? To a dog tied with an iron chain and locked in a room, within a room, within a room. And when he barks, the entire populace is terrified of him. Imagine if he were loose outside, so the tongue, it is secured behind the teeth and behind the lips. And it does no end of damage. Imagine if it were outside.
So a similar idea, and I brought both because that second one was too funny not to bring. Okay, the Talmud.
Talmud, Russian 15a. Evil talk kills 3 people: the speaker, the listener, and the one who is spoken of.
Okay, so this begins the practical codification of evil talk. Yeah.
Is this any connection to the 3 monkeys? Here in a row.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm showing my brain and my mind. I apologize.
I appreciate the pop culture.
Let's say
Well, hold on for a moment, right? So the idea here, and this becomes part of practical Jewish law, that if you speak Lashon Hara, you're liable, and if you listen to Lashon Hara without objecting, you're liable.
a man once came to see Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch and proceeded to portray himself as a villain of the worst sort. After describing at length his moral and spiritual deficiencies, he begged the Rebbe to help him overcome his evil character. Surely, said the Rebbe, you know how grave is the sin of Lashon Hara, speaking evilly of a human being. Nowhere to my knowledge does it say that it is permissible to speak Lashon Hara about oneself.
Okay. What'd you say? Yeah. And this, again, understand that these become foundational texts for practical Jewish law. Law in the legal sense of it, right? That you are not allowed to speak Lashon Hara, including of yourself. You cannot speak poorly of yourself either.
Well, that just flies in the face of Jewish humor, which is often self.
That's a good point. Oh, so you're speaking Lashon Hara about Jews now, are you?
Which only gives you the opportunity to say something.
course the classic Jewish text of Wikipedia. I particularly liked this description of Lashon Hara, and only partially because I went through and edited it on Wikipedia. And so, I just didn't love the definition, so I went through and changed it to what I liked better than I included here.
The Hebrew term Lashon Hara, or Lashon Hora, evil tongue, is the halakhic term for derogatory speech about another person. Lashon Hara differs from defamation in that its focus is on the use of true speech for a wrongful purpose, rather than a falsehood and harm arising.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that, to me, is the central idea of Lashon Hara. If you are spreading a malicious lie about someone that is not true, it's not Lashon Hara. I mean, it's also, you're not supposed to do that, right? But Lashon Hara is specifically talking about negative things about someone that are true. Which is very different from our sort of first instinct, right? Well, I can tell you this because it's true. The question in what produces Lashon Hara then? Did you have a comment, or was that just a...
Well, it sounds like hate political announcements these days on television.
You should break it, yeah.
It separates it from our legal owner life.
Absolutely.
In counseling, we talk about, and I'm using it myself, is it kind, is it necessary, is it true?
I don't think people heard you. Could you be louder?
Is it kind, is it necessary, is it true? If it's even one of those that's not, it's not true, you should say it, period. So say that to yourself and kind of help you.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So it is a powerful idea here. And what it creates then, and this is very typical of Jewish law, is that the defining characteristic of whether it is Lashon Hara is the reason that you did it, not the action itself. Right? It's the kavanah in that sense, the intentionality that you brought to the action. So let's talk broadly and see if we can derive sort of the Jewish consensus on this. When is telling something bad? I've got this awful story about that too. At what point is that? At what point is? I think we all have it all, right? At what point is that Lashon Hara, and at what point is it not? I'm telling you.
Doctors in consultation for helping someone who has a problem. It's for their betterment, so that's not something.
Okay, so in fact you sort of gave the answer in a nutshell there, yeah.
And as a therapist, we have a duty to protect and a duty to warn. If a client we're working with is threatening to themselves or to someone else.
Well, you've got you shall not stand by the wickedness of your neighbor. Somewhere across the ground from one to the other.
It's actually along the lines of medicine. It's something we've been talking about at the university as a safety issue, which is if you have concerns about a student, no matter what level it is, whether it's something they're in danger of hurting themselves or somebody else, whatever that is, we have a duty. No, but if you have a concern, there's a way to talk to the student and there are people on campus to talk to. That's not malicious gossip, whether you're talking to the students or
Yeah, that becomes the basic idea. There was a whole controversy in Israel when the Israeli, there's an orthodox version of Yelp in Israel that only deals with kosher restaurants. And there was a whole controversy tried in the rabbinic courts in Israel over whether negative reviews of restaurants constituted Lashon Hara.
and how did it turn out?
You know, I don't remember what the outcome was.
It's all about the
But it's actually an interesting it's an interesting question, right? Is there what is the damage level of someone going to a restaurant where the food's not good? Is it high enough to?
Well, and is there a discussion about a thing or a corporation? I mean, you're not talking about a person. That's a possibility.
Well, in the United States, you're
Although
going.
you have an individual ownership of, a small restaurant, the order might get awfully narrow. But
Exactly. And in Israel, most
Yeah,
restaurants still are these small ownership.
So the letter I'm planning complaining about the pork sausage for breakfast this morning, so the restaurant chain probably would be.
Well, that's correct, yes.
if you ate the pork sausage at a Jewish food, you deserve it.
Telling it to the person themselves is not, right? That's actually considered an obligation of a friend. If you care for someone, you must tell them all the bad things about them.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah. We're real good at that.
You're not supposed to, they also talk about another person's bad.
That's exactly the idea. If I'm concerned about someone's health because of their weight, it's considered a good thing to go to them and talk to them about that. However, accomplishing the same thing by talking to all their friends and friends about it.
If you're a husband, you don't want to say to your wife.
Spouses should learn that lesson, yes.
One is, so all critics, whether it be restaurant critics or food critics, whatever, maybe.
So that is actually that providing reviews of something in that sense is not Lashon Hara because the intentionality is not gossip. The intention is very different in that sense. Though, of course, a review, whether it's of a movie or of a restaurant, could be Lashon Hara, depending on the intentionality of the person when they said it. Right? If I'm doing it because I really hate that person, it becomes Lashon Hara.
And then just saying this is the opposite, but for individuals, if somebody is describing they're struggling with negative quality, and someone is talking to someone who's struggling, your kids talk about this, and they're like, I'm not trying to gossip, but that really bothers me. They're trying to figure out what to do. So the intention is to try to just figure it out. So that's important.
So it's the intention, but the question is, at what point does the intention not matter as much as the fact, too? And so, one of the classic methods of doing that is to talk with the third deceased, leaving out any identifiable, because then you can have that conversation that's really about yourself. And feel this.
So would it be constructive criticism versus destructive criticism?
Constructive criticism to the person is always accepted. It's when you're offering constructive criticism to all of their friends and family. That's constructive criticism. Yeah.
Where do you get all these guidelines? Is it in the Talmud or?
It's in the Talmud and it's in later Jewish. So okay, that's great. You look on Wikipedia. Okay, turn to the very back page for a second. This is, it actually, I found this. This was from a text that I did when I did the first UP retreat 7 years ago or something. This is the summarized version of that, that I still have somehow. This is the evolution of Torah right here. This is how Torah changes and evolves, right on the bottom. So the answer is here. That these are at some level, the layers of the pearl, if that makes sense. That Soloveitchik and Heschel are in response to religious Zionism and Haredi Judaism, which is ultra-Orthodoxy. These are in response to the Reformers and the Hasidim, which is in response to the legalists. So the answer to the question of where does this get codified is through this process. And of course, the beautiful piece of this is that what we are doing, literally what we are doing right now, is Torah, and is the very surface layer of the pearl. We are creating the next layer of the pearl. That's what it means to be engaged in Torah.
Something that says Bogarovich next to it.
Or Janitovich now. Okay. So in fact, that's the perfect. Bring in some text. This is the new month of Nisan. It's the Shabbos that announces Passover is coming. Passover is coming. So is there someone who'd like to do Haggadah for us? Raising the Torah. Come on up. Talmud. Yeah, I know. Tom, Hebrew name. Or Rivka Bat. Abraham Sarah the Hakbah. Please rise. Get us to rest in the Torah Asher Sam Moshe Ifnei Bnei Yisrael B'Adonai B'Yad Moshe Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Page 370. Let's see how well I remember this. 374. Hallelujah, Shema, Kinisna, Shema, Levado, Odo, Aleres, Vishamai, Bayaret, Neamo, Tila, Hotasidam, Ibn Israel, Amro, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Kakto, Betzatitachem, Trotiata, Azu, Et Hai Lemazikima Veloteha Melusha Tevateha Tafeno Veloteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu, Page 586. Leinu Leshabeach Adonai, V'atekula Yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu B'Yei Hara Ratzon, Velo Samanu Mishnu Korama, Shelo Samkakenu Kahen, Vegoramenu Kekoramon, Vanahu Kori, Umishahadi Uli, Vivenela, Malkeramaki, Akados Maru, Shehuna Shemai, Vegaserares, Umashahi Karo, Shemai Bima, Ushvina Tuzo, Beko Bemeromi, Ueloin, Ueno, Emakei to Betorato, Beatata Yom, Ashivota, Velo Betha, Ki Adonai, Hu Elohim, Vashamayim Viva, V'aretz, Nitateinu, V'ne'emar, Adonai, Melech HaAretz, Hayom Malchut, Yeh Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad. I'd ask that everyone be seated but the mourners so we can recognize you. Julie, you're saying Kaddish for your mother. Every day bless. She.
Barbara Fry.
Barbara Fry. Okay, 590. Kedal v'yekedal shemei rabah, v'alma dibra v'rutei v'alim ma'afutei, Chayei kol v'yom kol, Chayei kol v'yisrael, v'avraham Yitbarach v'yishtarach v'yitzahar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, Yitzahar v'yitzaleh v'yitzalach shmei v'yisham v'yitrumen, Elam yimol v'yirvatach v'shirvatach, Tushvatach v'yitramata, Damiran v'yomah v'yitrumen, Kedei shamarav v'yishmael, Chaim v'yim v'yokol Yisrael, Usei shalom v'yimah, V'yasei shalom, v'yim And let's make cash. Grape juice and wine over there.
And if you're having to have scotch or apricot,
So we'll do the schnapps second. You'll see, we've got a whole tradition of this. We'll let it be your tradition from now on. So first we'll start with grape juice and wine. If you go over there, there would be two people, the person over there who would sort of be pourers and start pouring. We don't need to, we can stay. Unless, here, we'll be making one. We'll do that second. You ready? That's what's up. Does everyone have? V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et hashava la'asot et hashavotam britotam yainai beini u'bein b'nei Israel ki sheshet yamim asar olam et hasharet u'bayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Okay, bracha tonight. Jewish Shabbat B'yikat Shehu. Samrim Ranan B'Ravotai. Say the Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. It is traditional among some circles for a little schnapps, for a good Shabbos, for a good week. So if you would like to join us in a little schnapps over here, we have apricot brandy or scotch. I'm love for scotch. I'm going to put the apricot brandy over there for anyone who would like. Anyone else for scotch? And there are new cups if you don't want your scotch straight flavor too. Would you like more than that? Anyone else for scotch? And don't drink it yet, we gotta make a bracha on it. It's a broad bracha, called the David Baruch.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Who else? Anyone? So for a happy, healthy week, for a wonderful Shabbos of being together, for a Chag Sameach for our upcoming Pesach, for many more being together. Baruch atah Ha'olam shehakol yeh b'dvaro. It's not called the Kiddush Club. Traditionally, the men sneak out during Torah reading to go to past day. I got in from my last conservative congregation that did this at the end of service. They had a whole bar. Go and get your trail. You'd be amazed how many people were at the end that weren't there at the beginning. Oh, no. And let's go get lunch.
Yeah.